We're going to develop an entire range of colors that are specific to FS, British Standard, RLM, all the colors that straight off the shelf I need Japanese World War II identification yellow, you go to the shelf and you pick it off. It's not, and I'm not saying that any paint manufacturers do this, but these are not just approximations to FS numbers. So a lot of paint manufacturers, no names, they will take an FS number and find the closest FS number to the color that they want. Our paint manufacturer has been doing it since 1922. They've made paint for the RAF. So they have all the British Standard color chart numbers. They have RLM, RAL, every color. So all I have to do is say to them, this is the color we want, and they'll make it. We do test them. I use them for about 2 months before we put them onto the market, just to see that they spray well, that they dry well, and that there's no problems with them, and that they settle well. I'm just spraying these metallic panels. Now, and you can touch that, except where it's shiny, but you can touch that, it's touch dry. That's enamel paint, and I just sprayed it on. So we're talking a couple of minutes. So if anyone, I defy anybody to say that that doesn't dry as quickly as acrylic paint does. Because that, you can touch it, you leave it overnight to dry, and then you sand it, then you do stuff to it. But that, that is dry enough to touch. What we did was we decided that we wanted to create a paint that dried as quickly as acrylics, that was airbrush ready, and we went and spoke to the guy who manufactures paint for since 1922, and we said, what can we do? What can we put in this to make it the best paint on the market? And he said, well, this is what you do, this is what you do. I personally wouldn't feel comfortable selling people something that I just thought was, the cheapest that I could get and flog it. It's not right. That's the argument that we want to make. If you want the best thing, you get it. This shows you the quality of the mil-spec paints. I left this from yesterday's demo. I left this in the airbrush overnight. Just the last dregs of it, but as you can see, it still sprays, it's fine. And that's the quick drying. But that goes to show you the difference in the quality paint can make. And so what I'll show you right now is just some simple, easy ways to clean your airbrush and get ready for the next color without having to do a major maintenance on the airbrush. I call this is what people call the blowback method. You just make sure that if you're going to do this, you want to make sure that you've fully depressed your trigger on your airbrush so that the nozzle is all the way inside the airbrush. Because if you've got tissue's not going to do anything to it, but if you've used this tissue like this, and you've gotten hardened paint in there, and you stick that on your 0.2 aperture nozzle needle, and what's going to happen is you're going to bend the tip of it. So I always make sure I fully depress it back, then stick it on, and hold it over the top so it blows into the cup. And always, just so that when you're at home, if you're working on the kitchen table or something, the wife's going to be a little bit upset if you're blowing paint all out of the airbrush onto the table and all over the place. So I always just cover the top of it. And then once you've blown it back up into the airbrush, what you don't want to do is then shoot it through the airbrush again, because you've blown all the particles and dried paint and all that, and then once you try and blow that out, you're going to clog your nozzle. Once again, fully depressed, straight on. And then once it starts blowing back clear, then you know you're done. But don't try and blow it through the airbrush. And we're only using a small amount, just a little bit, to wet the whistle, so to speak. And there, now it's starting to blow back clear, as you can see. So that's done. And that's as easy as, that's as difficult as your major sort of going from color to color as you're progressing, whatever you're using, ready for the next color.